Alright, so allow me just to take a moment to explain what I've got going on here. I got a brake booster and master cylinder, as well as an adjustable proportioning valve with a bracket, all from Summit Racing. I got the parts thinking it's universal, there's going to be some kind of modification involved, I'm going to have to work with it, it's not going to fit right away. So when they sent me the wrong part, I wasn't aware of it until it was a little bit too late. So they sent me a bell crank housing, a bracket. The bracket is for a Chevrolet, it's not for Ford. The bolt holes didn't line up, the bell crank itself was too wide, etc., etc. It was a nightmare. I tried right side up, upside down, left and right, backwards and forwards. I could not get this thing to fit. So what I decided to do was to eliminate the bell crank altogether, the cantilever system that was in there, and build my own bracket. So what you see me doing here is I've got some 1/4-inch stock. My first mistake, because I meant to get 3/16 inch stock, a lot easier to deal with. And so I ended up using the wrong stock for starters. It made the metal a heck of a lot more difficult to work with. So in order to get bends on it, I don't have a brake, and even if I did have a brake, I wouldn't have a brake nearly powerful enough to bend 1/4-inch. That's going to be hydraulic. So I scored where my lines were going to be. I bent it inside and then welded in the corners, which worked great. And the brackets themselves, when they were finished, worked great. The problem was that I didn't take into account the steering brace, or the steering column brace. It goes outside the firewall at the base of the steering column, so that wouldn't fit along the firewall anymore. And I also failed to consider the fact that it's a dual diaphragm booster. So with all of that, of course, I realized the bracket that I had built, I'd spent a day and a half building a pair of them, making them look nice, wasn't going to work for what I needed. And so I had to contact another company because someone had sent me the wrong thing. I had to contact another company and just buy just the bracket. They wouldn't sell me just the bracket, so I had to contact another company, and it's Master Power Brakes. And they've got the bracket, the boot, the cantilever, the shorter rod that this truck requires. And it was almost a bolt-in. A couple modifications made to the push rod of the brake booster, but I've got some footage of that, so I'll go ahead and roll that in. So all in all, it's been just trying to get the brake system figured out has been more difficult and more challenging than I expected it to be. I thought it would be just a simple plug-and-play kind of deal, but it wasn't. Now that I've got all the parts in, of course, it seems that it's going to be working just fine, but of course, until I get rolling, I'm not going to know that for sure. Okay, so you saw that I spent all that time building these brackets, and they're crude, but I've got a direct link right there. It's going into the firewall, and it's coming out, and I've got a quick link to right there where the brake pedal goes. Right here to right here. The only problem is, as I've learned, this is a dual, it's an 8-inch dual diaphragm, and so it requires a bell crank. The other problem with my brackets is that my steering column brace no longer fits. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of this off and go ahead and shoot my firewall. I need to sand it down, and I'll go ahead and paint it real quick, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do about it. chassis. What I'm working on right now is trying to figure out this brake situation. I've got the steering, or the pedal brace is back in place, just the top 2 bolts holding it in currently. I'm trying to figure out the brake booster situation. Summit sent me the wrong parts, so these brackets don't work. So I had to reorder, get another bracket. So I've got this one, and this one I think will work. Just a matter of getting it onto the firewall. And that's what I'm working on right now. I'm trying to get all this mocked up so I can figure out what needs to be done and then finish off the interior. As you can see, I painted the whole firewall. I just shot that real quick last night. It's nice and dry now. And that bracket should mount to these 2 bolts right here. Hopefully everything will work, but as of right now nothing has, so I don't know yet. This bracket comes with a long shaft and there's also a shorter shaft. I don't know which one I'm going to need, but right now I'm just going to get this thing bolted up onto the firewall and then I'll figure out the rest. Brake booster on. Figure out, find a trim where all the stuff goes. Oh yeah, definitely gonna have to trim. Of course, the master cylinder will come off right here, and then because I'm running discs front and rear, I've got a proportioning valve, so I'm going to be able to hang a proportioning valve right here off the front, off the side of the master cylinder, and it's an adjustable proportioning valve. Which will go right there. Okay, so right under here, I've got this is the push rod that's coming out of the master cylinder. And that will go to an eyelet and connect to this hole here. So this will have to be, I'll probably end up using the shorter rod for this application for right in here. And but that's how everything's going to go together. So got this bolted in. These are captured nuts. They're welded onto the back. And I'm really unhappy with them. I'm probably going to take these off and use lock washers, but I don't know yet. Haven't gotten to that point. But and it looks like I need to move the bracket. It's slotted, so I need to move this bracket down just a little bit. You can see I've got a little bit more room for adjustment. So I'll move this down just a little bit, and it'll help the alignment of the push rod. Okay, like I said, this rod here is too long. I'm going to try to get it as short as I can. I'll take this all the way on here and I'm going to mark it. So I know that this needs needs this much to be able to thread on. If I take that and I cut that down here, it'll give me enough to put my stop nut, and so this will be my cut line. So get that trimmed down, and then I got the stop nut in there. So now this should fit a little bit better. I just need to get this tightened down and thrown on the firewall and see where I'm sitting. see what I can do to get this view out here. Okay, so this is inside, and I am threading this clevis on right now. And when I get that threaded on, then we'll try throwing this pin through it and hooking it up to the brake pedal and see what happens. But that's it for this one. I appreciate you sticking around and putting up with me for this long. And I'll keep the updates coming as I get them. Just doing everything I can to try to get all of this sorted out. So, you guys take care. I'll see you in the next one.